I'm still thinking about the void and the possibilities of leaps into the void and leaps of faith, and standing on the shores of the nothingness of that void and building bridges out into that void, and those kind of what I see as connected metaphors. And I'm thinking about this idea of the void generally, particularly in relation to zeros. There's a really nice book called Zero by Charles Seif, I think it's called, something like that, which gives something of a history of the zero in mathematics, but more broadly culturally, really. And how it's one of the things that's quite interesting, I think, of that is a certain point in its early history, the number zero, which was barely conceived of as a number at all, and still has a pretty ambiguous status as a number. It was either forbidden or at least avoided because it had resonances of the void. You know, it absolutely took on some of the qualities, in a kind of supernatural way almost, the qualities of the concept, of the broader concept of the void. So to use zero was to kind of flirt with, powers beyond our ken, I suppose, or the potentially demonic, potentially maddening spaces beyond space. It had that kind of idea of it. And the other thing I like about zero, I'm not sure if I can get to this, but certainly in early uses of zeros, the concept of zero in mathematics, it would be configured just by a gap in the number line. So when you were doing maths, if you were adding up a series of numbers and you wanted to indicate a zero as that particular placeholder, you would just leave a zero, you would just leave a mark. I beg your pardon, leave a gap. But at a certain point, that gap became kind of captured and defined and delineated by drawing a circle around it. And I think it's fantastic, the fact that it's a circle around nothing, because the circles often signify everythingness. I mean, that's one of the, when you do charades, you do this circular gesture to mean the whole thing. It has that kind of resonance. But this is a circle around the concept of zero, so it transforms a nothing into a something. It's beautiful, I think. So it becomes a circle. So it has that, but for me, it has all the other resonances of circles, and the way that circles relate to emptiness and nothingness, and fullness and everythingness, conversely. So the circle that we seem to be standing in the centre of, for example, I've spoken about this endlessly, this kind of phenomenological disc on which we seem to live our lives, the circle which is demarcated by the horizon. You can never walk to the horizon. You can never look out over the nothingness which the horizon represents. And there's something of the zero, circular zero, in there for me really as well. The zero that's captured by the circle of the zero has something of the kind of incomprehensibility of walking to the horizon and looking out beyond the horizon. It's just not something you can do, other than kind of poetically, I suppose. And the other thing about this circle, which I really like, the circle for zero, is how it features in tennis. And that seems like a long way away from what I'm talking about, and I might not be correct in my facts here actually. But in tennis, no point is called love in English. And my understanding is that comes from the French l'œuf, which means the egg, which in turn is drawn from the image of the ovoid, circular ovoid shape of the zero. So when you're saying love in tennis, you're pointing to the egg-shaped nothingness. Of course, the fact it's egg-shaped is just resonant with associations as well, but that's something else, I think, perhaps. So that love in tennis is the shape of the zero. But it's not just that, I don't think, and this isn't in tennis particularly, but love itself, the word love, not in tennis but outside of tennis, also features in Kierkegaard, who I've spoken about before, as one of the prerequisites for the leap into the void that he talks about, the leap of faith, the leap to faith, represented by the move from the ethical to the religious in that kind of upward and outward journey of personal development that he talks about. So it's a leap not just into the void, but a leap into a state of love, in which one loves God in Kierkegaard, and God, and you leap into God's arms. That's kind of the image that it's a loving embrace, which obviously I don't buy into, having no relationship to God personally. But as a piece of poetry, I think it's fantastic. And one of the things I like about it is that the fact that that leap into God's arms, the leap into love, and which is a kind of antidote to the fear and trembling that one has making that leap, plays itself out in something as simple as the number on a scoreboard and what an announcer will say during a tennis match. When he says love, he's talking about circles, he's talking about capturing nothingness, capturing the void inside a perimeter. He's talking about the impossibility of standing on the horizon. He's talking about empty rooms and the process of moving into empty rooms. And he's talking about the leap of faith, a leap into the void.